And welcome back again. Yours truly, Anthony Parker Alexander of Midnight at the Oasis. There we go. Make sure we get the title right. We're here again, Midnight at the Oasis, sponsored by Keeping It Honest. Yours truly, Anthony Parker. That's our regular show that we do. We have short clips, long clips, 5-second clips. We go up to almost 3 hours. How you doing? Little tech problems. Sometimes technology is good. Sometimes it sucks pretty bad. But our notification said it will be here at this time. And lo and behold, here we are. You have any questions or comments, you can email yours truly, excuse me, at parkerman2011 at gmail.com, parkerman2011 at gmail.com. Trying to get a little comfortable here. There we go. And you can text me if you like. Leave a voicemail. Telephone number is 216 702 3718. 216 702 3718. Hit the like, hit the share, and of course, hit the subscribe button. Go to our Patreon page, type in Keeping It Honest. On that page, it is kind of like a PBS. You help sponsor what we do. We thank you for subscribing. We thank you for leaving us messages that we go through on our phone. For the videos that we do, the live, the tapes, the long, the shorts. And I'm going to read one from you real quick. This one I thought was really interesting one. It was from today. Talking about Kamala's coconut tree. You know how Kamala talks about coconuts a lot. Hasn't done that a lot since she's been running officially for president. But wait a minute. Let's say a prayer like we always do. Dear God, we thank you for letting us be here, letting us gather, even if it's one. Hey, that's all we need. Keep them coming, keep them growing. We hope that we can use this platform to help educate, inform, and entertain you. And I pray that you have a good evening and you have a good day. Amen. All right. What other show does a prayer before they start? Everybody needs prayer, some form or fashion. So now, like I said, let's go to the commentary or the comment. This was about Kamala's coconut tree, which I showcased. And Chris gave this reply. When she was a small child, did she fall out of a coconut tree? And during the passages of time, by the community bank, did a yellow electrical school bus run over her head because the bus driver was working Venn diagrams while driving? I like that because she put everything the commenter says in that comment. So keep them coming. We do things in a Parker twist. Interesting news up today. We're going to go through a little bit of it. We're going to play this sometime, but this is something that just happened. And it was about a Taco Bell murder-suicide. Not a happy show, but you got to be careful of your surroundings. We have to pray for people and what they go through because we just don't know. Drug testing schools. School kids, we're going to talk about that a little bit. Should they be drug tested? Matthew Perry, one of the hottest stories of the day. Charges have been filed. We're going to talk about that a little bit. Harris, Trump. Which one has the black vote? Which one has the white vote? We're going to break that down. And then Trump. What was he like about 10 years ago, right before he started running for president? You're going to hear some of the things and see some of the things, and you'll find out he was the same guy then, in some ways, that he is today. So, wow, man, lot to do. So, we're going to talk about this Matthew Perry story. It's a pretty sad story. You know that, he died last year. And now charges have been filed. A lot of people saying, well, he died. Was it his fault? Well, now they're going after the suppliers. But I want you to watch and listen to the people that enabled him and that turned a blind eye, and that it was all about money. And how Matthew Perry, he just could not break away from this disease called drugs. And unfortunately, that's what killed him. But there were a lot of people that enabled him to get to the point where he died.
Nearly 10 months after the Canadian actor Matthew Perry was found dead of an overdose at his LA home, authorities released the details of a bombshell investigation with a message.
And then we're going to do a long form show dealing with Matthew Perry, drugs, addiction, and the people that enable regular people that may not be like Matthew Perry, but could be like you and me.
If you are in the business of selling dangerous drugs, we will hold you accountable for the deaths that you cause.
They've charged 5 people who they say preyed on Perry's addiction issues.
That investigation has revealed a broad, underground criminal network,
including 2 doctors, Perry's own personal assistant, and a person known as the ketamine queen.
So think about this. This might remind you of Michael Jackson and his doctor. These doctors, in some ways, are going to pay more of a price than Michael Jackson's doctor. But the stories are very similar.
Even at the height of his fame, Perry struggled with addiction. He spoke about it with Q's Tom Power in 2022.
It's not fair.
It's not fair.
That I had to go through this disease while the other 5 didn't.
So you wonder who those other 5 were. And if you look at Matthew Perry then, that was 222. He was loved by friends. Everybody loved Chandler Bing. But people don't know what secret things you go through in your life. And he was going through something tragic. He had been trying to fight it. He wrote a book about it. He said how much this is a disease. And it came back. Even after he talked about this, wrote a book, was on TV, right there. And it eventually killed him. But it's the enablers that could have stopped him, that knew him, that could have saved his life.
They got everything that I got. But I had to fight this thing and still have to fight this thing.
In 2023, Perry had been using ketamine therapy to treat his depression. Authorities say when his doctor wouldn't increase the dosage, he found others. Doctors who charged $2,000 for vials of ketamine that cost $12.
He wrote in a text message in September 2023, quote, "I wonder how much this moron will pay. They knew what they were doing was wrong."
In a medical setting, we have a margin of error.
This pharmacist says ketamine has a place in treating depression, but there's a danger.
I would never expect a patient to be able to administer that or have the appropriate calculations doing that at home, and particularly if they're using illicitly manufactured ketamine.
Not only were the vials of ketamine being administered by Perry's assistant, prosecutors say the source was a drug dealer known as the ketamine queen.
So that's interesting. Excuse me. So he couldn't get it from his doctors, so he pretty much decided he was going to go to the streets and get this medication. Not really to help him with depression, but just to keep him going, I guess. How many people know about this drug called ketamine?
Who police say is already connected to the death of another user. While authorities hope that this is a wake-up call, they applauded Perry's own openness about his struggles, part of how the actor wanted to be remembered.
There are people that will help you and get their help. It doesn't go away. It never goes away.
You have to remember that. So this is what this guy said. Everybody loved him. He was addicted to drugs. He couldn't get out of it. And he's telling you, it doesn't go away. He wrote the book. He went on TV. He talked about his drug addiction. People thought he was over it. It didn't go away until it did with his last breath.
Eli, Matthew Perry's death obviously got a lot of attention because he was a celebrity, but police are saying it didn't get special treatment.
Well, they say they investigate all overdoses, and this is actually part of a larger effort against what they call synthetic drugs. So, amphetamine, fentanyl, and more. And they're saying that because of this case, they're now able to connect it to other cases. So, take, for example, the person they're describing as the ketamine queen. They're saying that they're now able to tie this to another case where the ketamine queen, the police say, gave ketamine to, and that very day that that person received ketamine, they died. And this is also part of changes in laws. You look at the investigation into Matthew Perry, into the rapper Mac Miller, who died of an overdose. Well, now drug dealers are being held responsible for the deaths that they cause.
All right. Thanks, Eli.
You're welcome.
So, what do you think about that? Should people be charged, the drug dealers be charged in the deaths? That's interesting. Wow. Sad state of affairs for Matthew Perry and other people who are addicted to drugs. So, if you know somebody who's addicted, maybe you can help them out. And if you can, possibly save their life. Because sometimes, as you see with Matthew Perry, he couldn't save his own life. Everybody has their enablers, but the enablers have to really stop looking at themselves and what they can get out of it, how rich, but look at the person who's in a lot of pain. Interesting story. We're going to do a more in-depth story on that, the Matthew Perry story, and all of what really happened. So stay tuned for our long-form version of that. That's going to be an interesting show. So what do you think about that segment? You can email me, parkerman2011 at gmail.com, parkerman2011 at gmail.com. Leave me a voicemail, excuse me, 216-702-3718, 216-702-3718. Midnight at the Oasis. What do you think about this election? So the top issue, what are people thinking about in deciding who to vote for president? Excuse me, you have Biden, not Biden. 3 weeks ago we had Biden. You have Harris and you have Trump. So the top issues in deciding to vote for president. Economy, 38%. I always look at it, think of things now, think of things how they were 4 years ago. 38% is the economy that people are saying is important on their mind. Now, this one, it surprised me. It all depends on who you talk to. If you're talking to regular, people, regular people, meaning, I don't want to say regular, non-white people and white people. Immigration. Does immigration affect people who are not white? Is that on their mind? So 14% is the top issue in deciding who to vote for president. That's the immigration situation. After this one, I'm wondering how many of this is women and how many of this is men. The abortion issue. 14% of people say this is one of the top issues affecting America. This one, the last one, it should be maybe higher than the economy, but definitely higher than immigration because this affects everybody. And I think even abortion it affects. Healthcare, because you got to be healthy. Healthcare is 7%. So the economy is 38%. Immigration is 14%. Abortion is 14%. And healthcare is 7%. Let me know if that is really what affects you. So some of the other top things. Prices are rising. Some of the highest prices, eggs, up 15%. Gas, up 15%. Shelter is 15%. A lot of things 51%. Sorry about that. Daycare is up 51%. And baby food is 4.6%. Well, that's not bad. I don't have any kids, but that one's not bad. But everything has gone up. Everybody's feeling the pain. So when you go and vote, Donald Trump has said, vote for your stomach. Are you more hungry today than you were 4 years ago? That I think is very, very interesting. Are you hungrier today than you were 4 years ago? Wow. Is your stomach growling? Are you paying for lights and gas and rent and phone more than you're paying for, let's just say, food? Which one is more? So, what we have coming up now, this is a sad story, but this is real life. We have to know our surroundings. We have to look out for ourselves. Sometimes we're not able to look out for ourselves because things they just go too fast. So I'm gonna play this as soon as I get to the right one. I'm going to play it, and we're going to talk about it. This is something that happened at a Taco Bell, and it happened today. So it's like late breaking news, but it's the tragedy of, man, there are so many things happening that you got to be really careful of your surroundings. You got to be careful where you at. You got to be careful who you're with. You got to be just totally careful. You got to pray that when you're out, that nothing happens to you or a family person wherever you're at. So I'm looking for this and I don't see it. Okay. That's what I'm saying. Technology, it is crazy. So we're going to go to the story, which I think is very interesting too. Okay. You know him, you love him, you just can't get enough of him. President, former, and do we still call him president or do we call him former president? Trump. And this story is about Donald before he became president, as he was running for president. So, this legendary reporter, Ted Koppel of Nightline for almost 30 years, he's going to be interviewing Donald Trump. And Ted Koppel, the reason he became famous was when he had when Jimmy Carter left office, I think back in 77, there were hostages in Iran. And so ABC News late night did this daily report saying day 2, day 3, day 500 of hostages in Iran. And then they eventually called it Nightline. So Ted Koppel had that at the beginning of the show. It turned into Nightline. He had it for almost 30 years, if not more. So now he's a correspondent.
Nobody in recent memory has a more highly developed sense of public confidence than the freshly minted Republican nominee for president.
So you look at Donald Trump there. There's Ted Koppel, and he was a correspondent for Nightline. So Ted Koppel is interviewing him and is asking him, he's the nominee. He hasn't officially went toe-to-toe yet, okay? But he's the nominee. He didn't go toe-to-toe with Hillary Clinton yet, but they were about to. But this is him, his first time running for president of the United States. And let's see if he's a little different, and let's see if some of the things that he said back then still are the same today. So Ted Koppel, Donald Trump, sit down interview with yours truly as he talks about what it's like starting out as running for president of the United States. And he has said, my whole life has been winning.
Still, as I sat down with Donald Trump late last week, I couldn't help but wonder.
Let me ask you a question I've wanted to ask you for months
Go
now.
ahead.
I have a sense that back on June 16th, what Donald Trump was thinking was, you know something, I might win a primary or two, I might win a caucus or two, but the worst thing that's going to happen is the brand is going to be improved, I'll be better known, I'll be more famous than I am today, business is going to be, you never thought you'd be sitting here on this day as the nominee of the Republican Party.
So did he think that he'd be the number one person to go up against Hillary Clinton?
It's such a great question and such an interesting question. And I think about it myself. I mean, I think I must have, Ted, because I do like to win. And I believe that if I didn't think I was going to win, I wouldn't have done it. So somewhere deep down in the mind, I must have said, I'm going to win.
But some people have said, since he didn't win the other election, that he's also a sore loser.
Check the microphone.
The afternoon of his acceptance speech, Trump did a walkthrough and a mic check.
I love the media. Well, I was being sarcastic and saying how much we love the media. No, the media has been very dishonest, but we put up with it.
Nothing's changed since then. He still hates the media.
But I let people know about it. There's tremendous dishonesty in the media, but I let people know about it.
It's been a mixed blessing for you. The media
Well,
has been a blessing, and you wouldn't be where you are today without the media.
Yeah, I think you're right.
How did that work?
And by the way, some are tremendously honest, but you have tremendous dishonesty in the media. Tremendous. I've never seen anything like it. More so in the last number of months, I think, than I've ever seen it. With that being said, you have to power through it. And I do that, and it seems to be working out pretty well. But I do like to expose it.
When you talk about exposing the media, what the media is there to do, what we are supposed to do, is keep you honest.
Yeah.
And you've had your share of misstatements over the past few months.
And I like what Ted Koppel said, because he's a professional journalist. He's older now. But he says, our job is to keep the politicians honest. But then they really didn't do a great job with Biden in his last couple of years in office, because they didn't keep him honest and they weren't honest.
Well,
without the media, who would know about that?
Well, I think that I'm an honest person. I feel I'm an honest person, and I don't mind being criticized at all by the media, but I do want to, I do want them to be straight about it.
Trump seems to deal with unpleasant reality by ignoring or denying it.
The ex-presidents, the leaders of the party, the ones who ran for president, are pretty much arrayed against you.
I don't think so.
Now you have to,
I don't think so. Look,
the Bushes are, the McCains are, the
Ted, let me explain
Romneys
something. The people like me. I got the most votes, almost 14 million votes, in the history of the Republican Party. We're talking about Dwight D. Eisenhower. We're talking about.
Now you've got to convince the independents.
The polls are showing.
Now you've got to convince some of the Democrats.
But I'm way up with independents.
How do you convince the doubters? How do you convince the people who are sitting out there? And there are a lot of people sitting out there saying, I can't believe that Donald J. Trump is the nominee.
My whole life, though, and you've covered me for a long time. We've known each other a long time. My whole life has been winning. I mean, I've won. Whether I did The Apprentice, went on television, same questions.
You can't compare. Anything you've done before.
Tremendous success in business. Tremendous success with. I go into television. I do a show. It's a big success. I write books. They're very successful.
There's nothing.
No, I agree.
Nothing like running president of the United States.
I agree. There's nothing like it.
So he won the first term. The second time he tried, he didn't win. They say three's a charm. Will he win this one? Will he beat Canada? Time's going to tell.
How do you convince those doubters? How do you convince the folks that you're going to have to get those people in the middle?
I think on November 8th, I think that's the way you convince them, to be honest with you. It's all about that. That's the ultimate.
If you haven't convinced them before November 8th, you're in trouble.
Them. Right now, I'm up in many of the polls.
What are you doing? What are you saying? I mean, you talked at one point. In fact, I heard you say it several times. Oh, I can be so presidential.
It's true.
Haven't seen it yet.
If we ever see him be presidential, is presidential, that's a leader, but is a leader tough? Is a leader arrogant? Is a leader compassionate? What all exactly is a leader and is a president and is Donald Trump? And this was in 2016 before he became president. Were we better or worse before he became president? That's the question. And should he deserve a second term after he didn't get it this last term?
I think
I mean, I still see that flare of temper. I still see that Donald Trump, who likes to jab people in the ribs when he feels he has to. We're going to see more of that or less? I mean, you're going after Hillary. There's no question of that.
I mean, she's a competitor, just like when I'm running the nation. If
But is
that
it
happens,
going to get
we're going to
nasty?
compete with Hillary. Well, I mean, she's taken very nasty ads and all. I mean, it's not like me. It's sort of funny that you say I'm going after her. She spent $102 million on negative ads, and everyone says, "Oh, you're going after Hillary." She spent $102 million on negative ads. I haven't literally bought an ad. I will. We have a lot of money.
What is it that's going to be different about the Trump campaign?
What's going to be different about the Trump campaign since 2016 and 2020, and now it's 2024? Well, he had an assassination attempt on him. And instead of having Mike Pence, he, of course, has J.D. Vance. He's gotten more black voters, and pretty much, is he somebody you've missed in the past 3.5 years? That's really the big difference.
Now that you're in a general campaign.
All I can do is talk about policy, which I'm very good at. All I can do is talk about the things we're going to do for our country, rebuild our depleted military, borders, trade. Obamacare is a disaster. It's a total disaster. Our healthcare plan is a total disaster.
How important are the debates going to be?
I think they'll be very important. I always think they're less important than people think, but
less important than people think. But let's remember that debate you had with Joe Biden, that was the end of all be-alls. So debates, I guess, are very important. We have one coming up with him and Kamala. We have J.D. Vance, and we have Weiss coming up, the other presidential candidate debate coming up. Most people, I think, have already said who they want. So now you're maybe getting the undecideds, but how much of an impact do undecided voters mean?
In the other debates, I was in 11 debates. Every poll had me winning every single debate. Every single poll had me winning every single debate. I look forward to the debates.
What William F. Buckley said? He said, never debate someone who's not a debater.
Well,
you're not a
could
debater.
Very well be. I think I surprised a lot of people, but I enjoy the debates. My biggest question when I got into this is what's going to happen with the debates, because I've never debated professionally before. I debate my whole life as a debate in a way, but to go on a stage, and I went on against people. That's all they do is debate. It's they're politicians, and I actually loved debating. I enjoyed it.
So that's interesting too. He's not a debater, but he loves debating. So it's going to be interesting because most of the people he has debated are pretty much professional debaters, and it seems like he's won literally every time.
Last question. I have this image of you sitting there in your jammies at night, doing your texting and your tweeting and your Facebook. Give me a visual image of when does Donald Trump text and tweet and all the rest?
Well, I think there'll be very little of that if I win. I think it's it's a little bit different. But right,
we know that part's a lie because that's all he did was text and tweet, and people were wondering how does he have all that time to text and tweet and still be the president of the United States? So man, he just didn't know.
Right now, I'm in a very nasty contest with a person who's a very nasty person, who, by the way, tweets and texts and spends. They have a tremendous apparatus.
Well, is it you tweeting?
Oftentimes,
are all those tweets yours?
No, but oftentimes it's me. I mean, oftentimes it's me because I get out a message. Between Facebook and Twitter, I have over 20 million people, and that's a big audience. And it's also you and the media and everybody's watching.
It allows you to circumvent.
It allows me to get across a point very quickly in seconds. I mean, there was never anything like that. And I have such a big base. It's such a big, 20 million people. That's a tremendous, more than that. It's going to be much more. So I think I'm gaining probably 100,000 people every few days. And that gives me a big, big base in terms of a campaign. In terms of a presidency, I don't think I'd use it very much at all.
All right. You've been kind to do this. I know you've got a couple of things on your agenda.
Thank you very much.
All right. Very good.
Thank you, Ted.
Thanks.
All right. So there we go. What did you think about that? Wow. I'm so excited. My voice went up. What did you think about that? There we go. Donald Trump back in 2016, before he became president of the United States. Some of the same policy issues, concerns, we're still dealing with 8 years later. Some people are saying, Donald, stop getting personal. Talk about those issues. You did your 4 years. Now we're in the middle of the 3.5 years after you. Has it gotten worse or has it gotten better? What do you think, people? let me know. 216, excuse me, 702-3718. 216-702-3718. Midnight at the Oasis. Yours truly, Anthony Parker Alexander. And we're keeping it real, keeping it simple, keeping it honest. This election is coming at us. The one base that people are always surprised of right now is black voters. Okay? Obama ran. He got pretty much 99% of the black vote. Biden won. He got like 90 something percent. Kamala's running. She's got 90 something percent. But what about the Don? What about Donald? What percentage has he had? Well, he's improved from what he had a couple of years ago. I think he had like 8%. Now he's got maybe 14%. It might be rising more. So we're going to play this story. And we are going to talk about the black vote. Okay? What about the black vote? You think more people are going to vote for Trump? Some people are saying they're voting for him because he went to the jail. Not to be, funny, but he went to jail. He got his mugshot. And a lot of people are saying, wow, Donald, we're for you now. Man, it's interesting, the impact of the black vote. They didn't take it for granted for Biden. They didn't take it for granted for Trump in the first term. And they're definitely not taking it for granted with Kamala. She's going to get most of the sorority votes, I think, most of the women. I don't know about the men. Trump wants to get more percentage from what he did the first two times. And some say it's looking like he's doing that. You have the whites for Kamala, the white men for Kamala, the white women for Kamala, and you also have blacks for Donald Trump. And that's what we're going to talk about right now. Blacks.
As recent polls show, Vice President Harris gaining momentum in her bid for the presidency. They also show her winning over more support from a key voting bloc, black voters. According to data this week from Pew Research Center, 77% of black voters support Harris compared to 64%.
So when you look at that, support among black voters, 77%. Yeah, Trump's got 13%. You would think that Harris would have more than 77%. Why does she have, even though that's a lot, but Biden had in the 90s, Obama had literally almost 100, and Harris has 77%. Where Trump had 8%, I think, in the last tryout, he's got 13%. So he improved. So he's improving as far as black voters, even though it's a small spectrum, and she's decreasing as far as black people. Are people voting for her because of her policies? Are they voting for her because she's black? Are they voting for her because she's a woman? Trump. They're not voting for him because he's black, because he's not black. Are they voting for him because of his policies? Are they voting for him because they don't like Harris? Are they voting because they felt they were better off? This voting election, only time will tell.
Who backed Biden in July. Trump's support among black voters is unchanged at around 13%. Now, this comes as the former president is trying to appeal more to the black community, a group that has long and overwhelmingly backed Democrats. CNN's Ellie Reeves spent time recently in Virginia at a shop selling Trump merchandise that's run by a black woman.
Every woman ought to have one of these. It's one of those things that when people see one, then they want one. Same thing with the Confederate hat. You know why? Because people don't think you have the nerve to do it.
Joanne Price runs a Trump store in Christiansburg, Virginia.
When Joe Biden announced he wouldn't run for president again, was there any part of you who felt a pull to vote for Harris?
No, absolutely not. I would
Did you see that? Even my dog hates Biden.
not vote for either one of them. I would not vote Democrat ticket. No way. This is a white privilege card.
A white privilege card. You see that? Let's hear the story.
And this is just a play. It just says this card trumps everything, and it gives a barrier, happiness and success because of the color of the skin.
And who buys that?
White people.
Okay.
It's funny.
And then when you give it to a state trooper,
They'll let you go. Won't write you a ticket.
You think so?
I've experienced it.
Yeah. Wait, really?
And then he said, okay, he laughed at it and gave it back to me and did not write me a ticket.
So what if people really had that card and were in another city? The white privilege card. I wonder if that would work, just out of curiosity. And as we look on the screen, we see official race card, 100% oppressed. Wow.
This actually happened at least once elsewhere. In 2022, a woman claimed Alaska police let her go without a ticket when she flashed a white privilege card instead of a driver's license.
It's humorous to us, you know. It really is. It's humorous to the average American here.
The 2-1, he was a Republican too.
Trump has been working to appeal to black voters, and polls showed some success when Biden was still in the race, but have since gone down.
The Trump campaign this year has made a big effort to reach out to black voters. What do you think of their efforts?
I think their efforts are succeeding tremendously. All the things that have happened.
Trump bulletproof 2024. Wow. And of course, if you have a black candidate, you assume, and I could be wrong, that a lot of black people are going to vote for that black candidate. Unfortunately, it's because of race. But then when do you make the difference between, is that black candidate the best black candidate to run because of policies? Maybe that person isn't good. I know we sometimes tend to vote on Democrat and Republican straight down the line. But what if that Democratic person and the issues aren't good, but that Republican Party person, the issues are better for us? Do you break the line, the Democrat, Republican, and just vote for your heart? That's what's hard for a lot of people. And maybe that's why sometimes we don't have the best candidates in office.
To President Trump, the attacks on him have done nothing more than strengthen Black people's connection to him, because now he's someone who is the target of a struggle, and they have always felt that they've been a target. I did prison ministries for 5 years. So, if you're a convicted felon and then somebody else is a convicted felon, there's a camaraderie there.
Donald Trump attacked Kamala Harris, questioning her racial identity. She's black.
Promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black. And
you didn't know if she was black until, how did she turn? Was her color? Is that what made her get black? Did she get a suntan? Some people say, Donna, are you white? Over the years, some people said you were orange. So are you white or orange now that Kamala has turned black?
now she wants to be known as black.
He's acknowledged his commentary has provoked mixed reactions. Price is just one person and not a swing voter. But we were curious what she made of his comments, given that she's a black woman and fervent Trump supporter and former local Republican Party chair.
How do you make sense of how Trump talks about Vice President Kamala Harris? That he sort of suggests that he doesn't understand her biracial background, that first she was Indian and then she was black. What do
I
you
don't
make of
understand
that?
it either.
Yeah.
She's Indian and she's Jamaican.
Yeah.
Is she black?
I mean, do you not think she's black?
So that's interesting. Indian and Jamaica. Is she black? I didn't think about it. Sound like Donald Trump now. What constitutes being black? Is it the color, or is it your ancestors? If her ancestors isn't black, is she black? I know Charisse Theron. If you know her, she's like very beautiful lady, great actress. She technically was born in Africa. So does that make her an African American? Technically it does. But she's not black. And when we say African American, we always think black. So think about that, what I said. Charisse Theron, born in Africa, an African American. So what is Kamala Harris?
Is she? Was she born here?
Yes.
Yes. Were her parents citizens? No.
Okay. But we have birthright citizenship in America.
Mm-hmm. We call that anchor.
People can't immigrate here and not be citizens, but have green cards and work permits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
However, she can claim to be Black because of her Jamaican father. That's her right. We're a melting pot, because I basically have a combination in my family as well.
How do you reconcile that? Like, you have a history of blended families in your family. How do you reconcile that with Trump seeming to not understand how Kamala Harris could have a blended family herself?
She could have a blended family. What I'm saying is his comments about that, I think he's making a point. And, I'm not so disturbed by that.
But what is the point he's making?
The point he's making simply is that she is not a black person.
So what is a black person? Now, if you ask Donald Trump that, he'd be like, what is a black person? But what is that, people? Let me know.
There were some mixed views on the idea of a woman president.
What do you think about Kamala Harris?
Kamala Harris, may I say this, and hopefully that you ladies won't get offended. But because of what happened in the Garden of Eden, there will never be an elected woman, whether she's black or white, that would occupy the White House that God would ever stand behind.
That's a strong statement, okay? Because there's other countries that recognize women as leaders. And so he's saying, I like to see biblically, if anybody can find that out in the Bible. So he's saying any woman, especially a black woman, will never become president of the United States. And did Jesus or God say that, especially about the United States?
I'm not sure America's quite ready for female leadership. It would be wonderful to have a female president if and when one arises that has conservative values that are going to lead the nation in prosperity.
Did Joe Biden dropping out change your view of the election at all?
Oh, it surely did. I think she's going to be worse than Joe. I just don't think she has the experience. I think she was only chosen because she was a woman.
He has been mocked.
Wow, so you see that picture right there? It looks like Jesus and Biden. Jesus and Trump. Wow. That says a lot. Okay, like they say, pictures speak 1,000 words. As you look at that picture with me, what is the first thing that goes through your mind? Mine is wow.
Scrutinized, slandered, dragged into court. This man is still standing, and he's standing strong because he knows that he was chosen. He's our David.
And Ella Reeve joins me now. I'm wondering what you heard from other customers in the store.
Well, as much as identity politics was rebuked by the merchandise there, identity was still really important to the people I spoke to. For example, one younger man told me that he didn't like Harris because she was for city people who had office jobs, whereas Trump was for blue-collar people like him.
And how did you meet the woman who runs the store?
I met her about 6 months ago in Virginia. She told me this story of wearing a Confederate flag swimsuit on the beach and how so many people had come up to her. She realized she'd missed a marketing opportunity. Obviously, I wanted to talk to her about what she thought about Harris's nomination, but she wasn't going to budge on that. And of course, polls show that she is not in the majority among Black women. Even a Black woman who was our taxi driver on the story could not stop raving about how much she loved Kamala Harris.
Ella Reeve, fascinating. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
So what did you think about that? Man. Whew. Blacks for Trump. Will there ever be a black? There was a black president. Let's not forget that, 2 terms. So why couldn't there be a black African-American one or a female, period? Where in the Bible does that say that can't happen? Wow, but everybody's got their opinions. Speaking of opinions, what do you think about that segment? You can email me, parkerman2011 at gmail.com, parkerman2011 at gmail.com. Telephone number 216-702-3718, 216-702-3718. I want to tell you this one story real quick, which I think is very, very, very interesting. And we're going to save some of the other stories because time tends to go so fast. So let me see if I can find it. Growing up, do you ever eat those cookies? Famous Amos cookies? I remember as a kid, I would eat those. I saw him on like the TV talk shows back then. And this guy's name was Wally Amos. He was very charismatic. He founded these cookies called Famous Amos. So recently he passed away after a battle with dementia, his children said. He was 88 years old. I hadn't heard from him for years, but he was always marketing those cookies. They were pretty much delicious. Chocolate chip cookies, if you love chocolate chip cookies. I love oatmeal raisins, okay? So he sold them. They were little small, bite-sized chocolate chip cookies, and they were kind of like novelties. And he later sold the cookie brand to a private equity group in 1988. So he sold them years ago, but he became famous for those delicious cookies. So as we try to end on a good note, because this is midnight at the Oasis, and I want the last story, if I can find it, to be something that's, kind of nice. I know one thing that you don't talk about, and I haven't really talked about it a lot as I'm going through my papers, is Taylor Swift. How many people are Taylor Swift fans? Well, you better not say you're not a Taylor Swift fan, because then people will probably come after you. Okay. And people have asked me too. I got these on. And somebody said, hey, are you a Swiftie? And I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know people who like Taylor Swift wears these. No, I just happen to wear them. There's some spiritual sayings on them. And this is something that makes me feel really good. I look at the sayings and it always uplifts me. So she's going to go back and do her concert in the one country because they had closed the venue and canceled everything because some people thought that area was going to get attacked, if I'm correct. So now everything's cool. She's going to be performing. So yay, Taylor Swifties. Man, you're like in your 30s still singing to kids. Marketing genius. That's all I got to say. But I do like some of her music, though. And I like her as a marketing genius. So go Taylor. Please don't be sending me any you hate Taylor Swift memes or whatever, you'd send me. When you go to sleep, listen to a little Taylor Swift. There's some good music in some of her music. Enough said. So, I'd like to thank you for watching the show. And when we can't fit everything in this one show, we'll just continue on another show because we have a lot of stuff, but time goes so fast and this show is developing. We're doing more clips. We're telling more stories throughout the clips. We're giving you more substance to what we do. And we could not do it without you. So hit the like, hit the share, but above all, hit that subscribe button. I am trying to find, before we go off, a comment from somebody. I'm going through my phone right now. Okay, here we go. Kamala's bad policies. People are talking about her policies are pretty bad. So it says here, and this is from, I got U.S. sayings. Okay. It says, forget about her policies for a moment. Tell us yours. Tax cuts for the 1%, building a wall and make Mexico pay for it. Last but not least, pardon yourself. Did I cover it? Yes, she did. I guess that person's not a Trump fan. But I thank you for commenting. Keep those comments going on. I love our community, our comment community. Tell your friends about this show. Go to our Patreon page, 3 tiers. Subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. And keep coming back. We're going to do this again tomorrow. We're here. Make sure you're here. Tell your friends you want to hear stuff in a Parker twist. We just talked about Trump in a 2016 interview, if he's changed over the years. We talked about the things that are on most Americans' minds, supposedly. We talked about the tragic death of Matthew Perry. And we gave an interesting take on Black people who are either voting for Trump or even voting for Harris. This election could go so many different ways. And we have some different stories coming up, so tune in. You never know what we're going to do, but we'll do it in a Parker twist. So in closing, keep your head up, never look down, always believe in yourself, and therein will lie your answer. We don't just keep it simple. We don't just keep it real. We keep it honest here at midnight at the Oasis. And if you watch this on replay, hit like, subscribe. I'm Anthony Parker Alexander, and of course, God bless.